All right, so my name is Kesha Wilkinson, and I am the Wisconsin City Director, which means I oversee all the impact chapters in the state. Um, and I don't have a year. This is my 7th year, I'll say that, my 7th year on staff with Impact. And one thing that has been giving me life lately is watching old 90s TV shows, like sitcoms. My heart cannot take anything heavy right now. Like I can't watch like anything. If it's not comedy, I can't watch it. Although I watched Insecure last night and it was fine. So maybe that's fine. But that's kind of funny too. But I've been watching like Living Single, A Different World, Full House. So like this all this stuff that's like that is on Hulu and on Netflix and all these places. So that has been definitely giving me a life and giving me a chance to kind of get an escape from what's happening around me. So that has been like a great blessing. So, but just to tell you a little bit more about me, I mentioned that I've been on staff for 7 years. I originally was on staff in Madison, Wisconsin, at University of Wisconsin-Madison for 6 years. And then I just moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin to serve as the Wisconsin City Director. I am also a UW-Madison alumni. I studied education in undergrad. I started in the teacher certification program, but then realized I hated the classroom because it did not do service to Black children. And so, and I didn't want to be a part of it. So I decided to study out of school learning spaces and inequalities in schools, and then went to graduate school to study educational leadership and policy analysis, which is basically student affairs. And then came on staff with Impact. So I'm really excited to spend this time with you all, and excited to have some fellow UW-Madison people, but also I wanted to mention again, because some of you were not on the call yet, but I have mentioned multiple times that UW-Madison is the best school, but that's no shade on y'all. I only said that because Jimmy was on the call. And so, you know, Jimmy is like, you know, always talking about how Marquette is better than Madison. So I like rubbing in his face and, you know, telling him something different. So that's why I said that, although I do think it's a great school. So I'm going to share my screen again. Let's see. So we're going to keep going. See if I can get it to. All right, so one of the things that I mentioned before, that this time is going to be highly interactive and is going to require your involvement. So I need one person to volunteer to be on the hot seat. You do not know what's going to happen, but if anybody is so bold to hop in the hot seat, I want you to say, I'll do it, so that I can see you on my screen. Don't jump too fast.
I'll do it. I don't know what it is, but
Yep, nobody knows. Nobody knows. Who said that?
I did, Kayla Smith.
Kayla, okay, awesome. So since we're talking about decoding and looking for the uniqueness in our university, I have some questions about your campus that I would like you to answer. Let's see how well you know your campus, okay? You ready?
Okay.
All right, so how many students are on your campus?
I don't even know.
Give it a guess.
Oh, 80,000. I really have no idea.
That's a big campus. All right, here's another one. It's okay if you don't know. Do most students live on campus or near campus?
Yes.
Okay. What are the demographics of your campus?
It's a PWI, so it's mostly white. It's probably maybe around 20% Black, and like everything else is maybe like 5% or less.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. Where are most Black students from on your campus?
Chicago.
Chicago. Okay. What percentage of students of color are on scholarships, and how many are paying for school?
I think a high amount, maybe like 75 to 80% are on scholarships, and maybe the rest are paying for school.
Okay. And then is there any cultural center, like a cultural center for Black students or for students of color?
Yeah,
And
we
then
have
where do Black students hang out?
We have a multicultural center, also called the Multi. And then where do Black students normally hang out? On campus, it'll probably be like the atrium during lunchtime.
Okay. Okay. And then what does the Black community look like on your campus? Are they connected, divided?
I think we're pretty connected. Yeah, whenever we have any type of events tailored to the Black community, everybody shows up.
Okay. What Black student organizations are on campus? What Black Greek organizations are on campus?
We have a lot of Black student organizations. We have a BSA, which is Black Student Association. We have the Impact Movement, Pinky Promise, which is a women's Christian group, Today's Black Woman, and probably way more, but I can't think of them right now. And then we also do have Greek Life. We have most of them. We have Zetas, AKAs. The Deltas just came back. Then we have Qs, Alphas, Sigmas, and we do have SG Rows as well.
Yeah, Madison lost their SG Rows. They don't have them anymore.
We just had a huge line come out, so.
Oh, wow, okay. Are Impact students actively involved in multiple student organizations? If so, which ones?
Yes, a lot of Impact students are involved with BSA, Pinky Promise, a lot of the women are part of as well. We have people that are a part of VOT, which is Voice of Triumph, which is also the gospel choir on campus, which is also a Black organization, now I think about it. And probably plenty more.
No. All right, so what is the biggest obstacle you face with Impact students?
The biggest obstacle probably would be like participation, as in like question wise, when we're in like big group settings and things, because everybody comes and shows out, but they're like kind of nervous to ask questions or answer questions. So, yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's go back. Does anybody else want to give it a try? Now that they know what it is. Thank you, Kayla. I'm gonna pick up my Madison people. Brianna.
Okay.
Ready?
Sure.
Same question.
Well,
Same
you
question.
can fact check me.
All right, and yours gonna be harder because I know all this stuff from Madison. So. All right, how many students are on your campus?
40,000.
You're right. Do most students live on or near campus?
Yes.
Yep. What are the demographics of your campus?
Majority white. There's like 1% to 2% Black. I think it's like lower than 10% of like Latino.
Mm-hmm.
Asian is a pretty big majority too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 80-something% white. I feel like it's almost 12% Asian American, about 7% Latino, about 2% Black, and then it's like another group that's like 3%.
I think it's another cluster that's just.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Where are most Black students on your campus from?
Broadly Midwest. We have like a lot of Chicago. We have a lot of Milwaukee. Yeah, but I think like broadly Midwest.
Okay. What percentage of students of color are on scholarship, and then how many are paying for school?
I'm not too sure about this. I feel like we have a very like decent amount that are on scholarship, but there are still like a lot of people that are just paying out of pocket for school.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
like,
it's about 50%.
I'm like, it can't be more than 60, yeah.
Yeah, it may be higher. Is there a cultural center for Black students or students of color? And then where do Black students usually hang out?
Yeah, we have like the red gym. So it's like we have our BCC there. We have a space for like Latinx. I'm not
Yeah,
sure, but we just are getting like a PITA, so like Middle Eastern, Pacific Islander area too, but it's mostly in the red gym.
now where do Black students hang out?
Probably like the BCC. I don't know. I feel like we have like clusters pretty much like everywhere. College library. Yeah.
Where are people in the college library?
Is it the second floor? I don't know. After sophomore year, I stopped going to the college library because it was just too much.
Yeah, it's the second floor. It switches between the second and third floor.
Yeah.
Okay. What does the Black community on campus look like? Are they connected or divided?
I think there are, just because we're so small, there are like distinctive groups of people. I feel like Greek life usually like sticks together, but there's still like branches off of that. So like there's groups of friends that are like not in Greek life, but are friends with people in Greek life, or different student orgs that kind of branch out and become friends with each other. So a little bit of both.
Okay. And then what Black student organizations are on campus, and what Greek organizations are on campus?
So of course, Impact, we have BSU, we have SICK, which is our activism organization, but that's kind of more multicultural. We have AHANA for like Black students looking to go into the medical field. What else do we have? I feel like I'm missing a lot.
It's a Black women's group. I can't remember the name of the group. It's only been around for like 2 years.
Oh, Queen and You?
Queen and
Yes, Queen and You.
I don't know. And then we have Greek life. We have alphas, kappas, sigmas. We have AKs, deltas, zetas. I think that's it. Am I missing anything?
No, that's it. The SGROs are chartered on the campus, but they're not currently there. Are Impact students actively involved in multiple student organizations? If so, which organizations?
I like to think yes. I feel like a lot of people are in BSU. A lot of people are in BSU. I feel like that the AHANA, the ones I mentioned, I feel like those are the people that like kind of jump around and are in a lot of them. I feel like more on this campus is just like you're kind of in something that you want to, like your personal like interests, and then something more like career developmental wise. So yeah.
Okay. What is the biggest obstacle you face, your chapter faces with Impact students?
Probably like outreach and getting like new people to come, just because it's like, I guess it's just we have like a core group, but reaching out to new people and trying to get new people interested is probably an obstacle on our campus.
Okay. All right. So now this is something I want everybody to engage in. Why do you think it's important to know the answers to these questions that I've asked. Why should we know these things about our campus?
Well, I guess since I just answered a bunch of them, I can start off. I think it's important to know these things so you can, you know, your demographics, you know, like what your like your Bible study should be gearing towards, and like also who's like your audience, like who is out there, and yeah.
What else?
I agree with Brianna. Just like knowing like what you're going into, like especially when it comes to like evangelism, like trying to be able to know how to talk to people, who to talk to, who to get involved with. Like if you know organizations that a lot of people are connected with, that helps like bring more attention to your chapter and your movement, and brings more people into the chapter and makes it more noticed on campus, and also like knowing like, you know, where to go to get noticed. So like knowing if, you know, if like for LSU, a lot of people hang out in the union, so going to the union to grab those people to, you know, talk to them, get them engaged and say, hey, you know, do you know about impact? Just knowing like where people are and who people are, gets you a chance to like know who to talk to and how to talk to them.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Is there any questions that anybody was surprised that I had in there? Anastasia, were you gonna say something?
Yeah. I was answering your previous question about like what do you think why are those questions important? I think they give a holistic view of what many Black students experience on campus, because if we're going to have an organization that's supposed to equip Black students with this biblical knowledge, you know, we got to know, you got to know and understand your demographic.
Any other thoughts? Or was any of those questions surprise any of you?
I think one thing that was surprising when people were answering the questions, I was kind of sitting back and thinking, do I know the answer to these questions with my school? So I think it caused me to look more into my school.
Yeah. Oh, and you will during this breakout session, you will get a chance to. So anything that you do not know, we're eventually going to get to the point where we're going to do an assessment where we'll spend 10 to 15 minutes where you all will have a list of questions where you can really you can use the internet to try to find these answers about your school. One thing that I do want to point out is that I mentioned like how many students of color are on scholarship. I didn't if you would have asked me 3 or 4 years ago, I wouldn't have thought that was important. No, but that tells you a lot about the campus. It tells you, one, that if most students are there on scholarship, they probably weren't going to go to that school if it wasn't for money being given to them, which was my case for Madison. Only reason I went there because my mom told me to follow the money. So so that tells you like why they went to the school. But then also it tells you about like the type of students that go there, because usually if there's a bunch of scholarships that are given out to Black students, these are probably like Black students that did very well in high school, that are very smart. So that tells you about that might tell you a little bit about how intense your Bible studies could be, or how what kind of questions you could ask in Bible study. I know one of the things that I've been learning as a city director and overseeing multiple schools at UW-Madison, most of those students that we encounter were on scholarship. So if they're on scholarship, a lot of times they have this high intellect. So we were able to ask these complex questions that were that cause you to think more deeply. But I realized on a different campus where most students are there on grants or are paying for student loans at other UW system schools, they were like, I don't get the question. So we had the same Bible studies, the same questions on different campuses. And they're like, and it's not that they didn't have the thought processes for it, but for some reason they didn't make the connection between the same way I think critically in class, I should be thinking that way in Bible study. And with Madison students, they're just like that. They just do it everywhere. And at this particular school, they were like, I do that in class, but I gotta do that here too. So, so it's just, it kind of teaches you a little bit more about the students, but also when you're thinking about doing conferences and events and things, you know, if people are on scholarship, that means they probably get a bigger refund check, which means that if you're trying to get people to go to Impact Conference and you need them to be paying for the Impact Conference, what do you need to contact them about the Impact Conference when they get that check? So they can go, and that they plan ahead of time so that you get more people going to the conference. Does that make sense? So like some of these questions might seem weird, but like but it's a lot of things that, you know, some of this information tells you about the particular student that you're having here. And one of the things that I've learned over the last year or so is that every campus has a different type of student. In some campuses that have really, really pro-Black people that refuse to go into Christian, like in Christian spaces, because they believe it's a white man's religion. So the way I share the gospel in that space will probably be dramatically different than the way I will share in a space like Milwaukee, where most of those students that I encounter in Milwaukee are highly churched. They just don't understand the gospel. I can go to them with the 4 spiritual laws. I still need to teach them all of the things that I will talk through with someone that's at a school where most Black students are really pro-Black and against the Christian faith. But my initial connection with them probably wouldn't be the same. I wouldn't go to them the same way. So let me go back to my share screen. Is there any questions or comments? Are we good? Okay, I'm trying to get this screen to work for me. All right, so just a few notes. The more you know and understand your campus, the resources it provides, and the students that attend, the better you can serve, the better you do at serving that community. But then also it's important to note that decoding and uncovering the uniqueness of your campus never ends, because the campus climate and the students is always changing. So something that you did before on campus as a chapter may not work the next time, or something that didn't work before might work this time. So it's always important to be evaluating and learning about the campus that you are on. Also, it requires Impact student leaders, serving leaders to be a part of the Black community, involved in the events and the activities that are happening on campus, engaging in building community with those who are believers that are not in Impact, as well as those who are unbelievers that are not in Impact. But then also it requires a commitment to evaluation, and this is evaluation for every major event you have, but also evaluation of your chapter mid-semester and at the end of the semester. And on Saturday, we'll really dive into this as we begin to think about how do we assess our campuses, but then also how do we assess them in a way that leads us to planning with that assessment in mind. But then also making adjustments based off of those assessments. So I kind of got ahead of myself, but learning how to see places where there's weakness and where you're doing well, and being able to use that to make adjustments to do better. So for the next 10 or 15 minutes, and I'm going to actually ask Rachel, I don't know if you can do this. I don't know if you could pause the video, because it might be a little weird to have like a gap of 10 or 15 minutes of nothing happening. Yeah, but okay, awesome. But let me say this first before you pause it. So here is a list of like 18 questions. I want you all to take about 10 minutes. I'll check in about 10 minutes to see where you are. If you need more time, I can give you another 5 minutes. But I want you to take about 10 to 15 minutes. And I want you to try to think about these questions and answer them. Most of these you'll know. You should know by just thinking about your campus. And some of them you might have to just look it up online, which is pretty easy to look up. Like demographics, you can just type in your school name and says the demographics of ISU, and it should pop up. We'll take about 10 minutes to do this, and then we'll come back and have discussion.
All right, I'm pressing pause.
All right, so we're gonna hop on in. Go to the next thing. So this is some time for discussion. What did you learn about your campus? What surprised you? Does the questions you answered about your campus change the way you think about planning for this coming fall?
One thing that I've learned when I was doing some research about LSU, I knew the school was predominantly white. I guess actually seeing the numbers, I could see how big of a difference it was between whites and non-whites at the school. Out of the 30,000 that attend LSU, 20,000 of that are white, and there's only 4,000 blacks, 2,000 Hispanics, 1,000 Asian, and then the rest are all under 1,000, like 100 or so. And I just didn't know the number was that prominent, that large.
Yeah, and there's actually schools that are worse. Madison is 40,000 students, and there's only just over 800 Black students on campus. So, yeah, there's campuses that are worse, but that's still bad. So, yeah. Anything else? Anybody surprised? What did you learn?
I agree with Anastasia because we both go to the same school, but just seeing like, I think I didn't realize that our Black community, honestly, I think it shocked me to see how big it was, because I feel like it wasn't that big. I felt like it was probably maybe like 10%, but it was actually about 12%. So I think that was a good surprise, but it still kind of shocks me to see like that from over 70% is white, and then the next highest one is only 12%. So it's like that's kind of a big shock. But I think I kind of realized that I don't know a lot of the Black organizations on campus because I know we have a lot of them, but I could only list maybe like 7 or so. So I think that kind of made me realize like, dang, I need to know a little more about my campus. But other than that, like everything was kind of just normal.
What campus are you from again?
LSU.
LSU. Okay. Then also, I mean, the question would be, how many students are involved at the Impact Chapter at LSU?
We grew a lot this past year. Because I think my first 2 years we were wavering with numbers, but we got a steady, like a good solid 30 to 40 people coming for our bigger groups. So I think this year was about grace and growth because God definitely allowed us to see a lot more people because our space that we had originally definitely was a lot smaller than we expected with how many people were consistently showing. And I mean, it was a good thing and a bad thing because it was overcrowded, but like we liked the fact that it was overcrowded. So it was like a lot of like trial and error with with the unexpected growth.
Okay. Yeah, and the interesting thing though is that when you know how many Black students are on your campus, that also kind of gives you guidance on how to pray. So if you got 4,000 students, that's 4,000 people that need to encounter Jesus,
Right.
you know? So, you know, that kind of, it makes it easier to be guided by prayer, but then also gauging with like, man, we could praise God that we've grown to 40. And that's actually a decent percentage of the population when you think about it. But then you could also be like, you know what, we want more, like, you know, and having the posture and saying, Jesus, can you give us a higher percentage? And because you know how many students are there, it can kind of help you guide you in the prayer and guidance on how do I begin to pray and ask the Lord for these things. But praise God for that growth, though. We like growing. Any other thoughts? What surprised you? What you learn? How does this change the way you think about planning for the fall?
I know that I didn't know much about my school beforehand, at least the numbers, because we only have like a little over 20,000 students at my school at Boston. And when I looked at the demographics, we are mostly white. It said like 8% white, but we only have like 8% Black. And I thought it was more because as Black students on campus, I know I've talked about it with a couple of my friends, we have like a tunnel vision type thing where we're on campus and we see all the Black people, but we like choose to tune out all the white people that are on campus. So that was like, oh, okay, that was more accurate to read that. But everything else was pretty close to hand. It also said that only about 45 students in total are on scholarships at Ball State, but I didn't find the information on like specifically Black students or students of color.
That's a large percentage of the campus. That's big. Anybody else want to share?
Something that I also found out about Ball State is that we have a lot of resources for students and Black students as well. But I don't think we know about it because we don't ask. And so something I've learned like through my experience is like asking my professors or even my mentors who are on campus, like what are different resources that I have, but we really do have a lot of resources, but they're not out there for students to just to see. So we have to really go seeking for those resources.
And we'll talk more about like the importance of knowing the resources on campus tomorrow when we talk about the 3 pairs. But like as an impact movement, it is our desire to see that every impact student graduates. So if that happens, then as an impact chapter, we need to know what resources are offered, because then if we hear about somebody that is struggling to find money for school, if we hear about somebody that's struggling and needs tutoring or need help writing their paper or whatever it might be, we'll be able to point them to those resources, or even bringing people from those different offices into an impact space and allowing them to give presentations about the resources that they provide. So, but it also, it kind of helps you get on the university good side when you're being clear and obvious and say, I'm trying to help students graduate, because that helps them and it makes them look better and they're more willing to do stuff and give you more money. So that was free. So so yeah, any other thoughts? Anybody else want to share? Where's the guys? I mean, are the guys mute? Alvin, Kyle.
Yes, ma'am.
Do either one of you want to share?
Yes, I believe there was a question that I've never thought to ask myself, but I believe it was about what is needed, or what could people on our campus could do. And what I had wrote down was leadership. As I was reflecting on just our organization, I realized that it does seem to be like that separation, that people come and it's almost like I'm coming to watch and not be a part of. And just thinking about that just kind of hit me heavy. So I've just been processing that. But I do think that there's a separation between people that are involved, the specific group people are involved, and everybody else comes to watch and have quote unquote fun, and then once you leave, it's a disconnect, it seems. So
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for sharing. All right, let's go on. So this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna ask for somebody else to be bold and plan this event. And I'm gonna try my best to type stuff in. I suck at spelling, so don't judge me. But I'm gonna try to type stuff in here. But I would love for one person to like have their campus in mind and plan a campus outreach event. So where is it gonna be? What's the title? What type of event is it? And then we're gonna bring in another campus and have them identify, will this work on their campus? And then if it doesn't work perfectly for their campus based off of what they've learned, what adjustments and changes would they make? Does that make sense? So volunteer, anybody want to volunteer to plan an event?
all right. So do we take over your computer or?
Nope, I can type it in for you. You just talk.
Okay. So we need to know, I guess, where or who we want to target.
Yeah, so this is an outreach event for impact. So of course we're targeting Black students. So if this outreach for event for impact, and the goal is to share the gospel. So what do you want the event to be? And this, you can just go off the top of your head, or you can share an event that you did on your campus last year. I'm assuming you may or may not have gotten a chance to do it in the spring, unless you did it in February. But you can share an event that you've done already on campus, or an event idea that you have, or just come up with something off the top of your head. But an outreach event to share the gospel.
Okay, so we're gonna go off the dome. Okay, so I know that one thing that our campus seems to long for is community and unity. So I guess giving students the opportunity to hear about what community actually means. I think that's something that all organizations on campus, Black organizations, can relate to. I know our Greek organization appear to need more unity. Just Black organizations just seem to need that. So I think we might need some speakers, renowned speakers that may be able to recognizable to attract people that may not necessarily be engaged already. I always wanted to see Jackie Hill Perry, but unfortunately that hasn't happened yet.
Okay. We're gonna pretend that we got an unlimited budget because she like 10,000.
Yes.
She grip, but we go we gonna act like we got all the money in the world. Okay. Jackie Hill Perry.
We might as well add Preston in there too, since we got the budget.
Might as well get both of them, right? Might as well.
Yes. I guess we're gonna need a place. I think the best place would be in the Nike. Kayla, can you please help me out? What do we see? Pruis. Pruis.
Spell it.
Pruis.
Okay.
The good thing with Pruis is that it's big enough. It's small, but when it's like with a lot of people, it feels more alive. It's dope when people are just standing on the outskirts of the place. So, but it's good. How we're going to tell people about this? We're going to need social media. We're going to need flyers, but most importantly, we're going to have to personally tell every Black student we see. I know we did that for one of our events where our telling about the event wasn't just beyond just the flyers and stuff, but it was about literally everybody you see, tell them about the event. So word of mouth. We need. What else? I think it could help having some events building up to this event. I know at our campus, it seems like we love themes. So Love things, t-shirts.
So t-shirts.
Yes, t-shirts. When people see t-shirts, that's a great way to advertise.
Mhm. Actually, I'll move it up here with advertising.
Our campus is seeing food on flyers too.
That's good. That's right. So we can get help from our campus, people on our campus?
Yeah, you can get help from other people on campus. So is this a partnership event?
Yes, those are actually very helpful. Yes.
So who are you partnering with?
Let's do VSA. Let's do Pinky Promise. NAACP. What else do we need? What else? I think that's about it. To be honest.
All right. I already know what's gonna happen at UW-Madison if we did this, but I'm not gonna call them out. But I would love to hear another school share if this will work on their campus and what changes would they have to make to this event to make it work for their campus.
For LSU, I think we don't have Pinky Promise, and we have BSU instead of a BSA.
Okay.
But yeah, we would definitely. We have people that are affiliated with NAACP, so that would work.
Mm-hmm.
T-shirts are very good because in the fall, and I think a little bit in the spring too, whenever we do our outreaches, it's definitely something we do with we have like little t-shirts, just handed them out whenever people fill out like a little questionnaire about us or things like that. So we'll say, do you want a free t-shirt? Just fill out this little survey real fast, and t-shirts definitely draw a lot of attention. So that would work. Flyers work too. I'm not sure honestly about the Perrys, just because I don't believe that a lot of people really know them on our campus. I think just honestly partnering up with more organizations would really help. I think also food brings a lot of attention, so having things to hand out brings a lot of attention to people when they pass by. And I think community, yes, and I think because a big thing, me personally, when we talk to people and do table sits, I say that I really enforce that we integrate your college life with Christianity, and that really tends to grab a lot of people and intrigue. I can see like a light kind of go off, like they're really intrigued with that. So I think something to do with community and Christianity when talking about it would definitely be something that a lot of people would be drawn to.
Okay.
And I think the location for the event would probably have to be in our union, just so we can have a bigger space for more people. Because if you do it outside, the Louisiana weather is so unpredictable, so definitely couldn't do that. But being inside somewhere that's meant for big crowds, I think would be the union.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts from a different campus? I'm wondering, will any campus, like for your campus, would they have a problem with the Perrys? Like would the speakers be an issue for any campuses? I know for Madison, um, there is a good population of LGBTQ plus um, uh, a pretty strong community there. And there's a decent sized faith community within that community, and they have major issues with Jackie Hill Perry. So I can imagine protests. I love the Perrys, I do, but would I have them come to UW-Madison? Probably not, just because of the climate of the campus. But then also, it only takes 1 or 2 Black students to know who she is for it to spread. And then all of a sudden, Impact is homophobic, and people are protesting our organization and saying that we should not be on campus anymore. So I honestly, on Madison's campus, it would not work to have the Perrys, which is very interesting. But I've seen them work very well on other campuses, as well as work very well with Black students on the campus, but then still have protests from the white community of LGBTQ Q protesting. So it's just interesting. It's just like knowing which campus would you have problems and what would the problems be, because it, some campuses it might be fine. They're there for Black students because the Black students might not have an issue with them, but the other populations might. So any thoughts about this, or any differences you would make for your campus?
I know I was gonna mention, like, as Impact, we know who like Jackie Hill Perry and Preston Hill Perry are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if much of like the Black population or population outside of Impact really know them.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably wouldn't even know who was coming or what they're about or anything like that. But just like to give a comparison, I know a lot of people know who Michael Todd is. So if I was to come out, we'd have a full house and people just standing up waiting, be like, okay, Michael Todd, I've seen him preach before on Instagram and stuff. I'm ready to see him. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is, Michael Todd will be a good option. One person we were thinking about having when I was still coaching in Madison, we were trying to get Kev on stage. Like Kev on stage is somebody that people just think he's a comedian, but forget the fact that he's a believer. So we considered having him. So any other thoughts?
He actually just had a video with Jackie Hill Perry, now that I think about it.
He did. Did anything stand out to you, even if you're not sharing about your campus and the differences of how this might be playing with your campus? Is there anything that stood out to you when you're thinking, like, are you surprised at all how differently you would plan it based off of what you know on your campus? Does that question make sense? Nobody was surprised.
Hey, Ms. Kesha, just want to let you know that there's about 12 minutes left.
All right, thank you.
I would say, well, hi guys, sorry. I know I haven't been here. I'm from ISU. But what like stuck out was the events building up to this event, because we don't do like a lot of, unless it's like something annually that we do, or if it's in conjunction with like another org and their big event, and then Impact will come and do something like midweek, like it's Greek week, but make sure y'all get your Bible study in. Impact is going to be hosting this or something like that. We don't do a lot of building up. So one, it could be because of planning, money, time, who's going to do it, because like it takes a lot of energy to do that. But if it's going to be a big event and we put in our time, money, and everything else in it, it would be nice to have a build up to it, but that's just not something commonly done on my campus's chapter.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's something that's interesting too, is that some campuses don't have, Impact chapters don't have as many funds, so, or even as many student leaders. So it's like some of these things you can't do because you just don't have the time or the resources to do so. So the changes and adjustments to how you do an event might not necessarily be based off of the type of students you have, or the access to other Black organizations, but it may be more of we don't have the resources to do it. So how do we still do a campus outreach event about community and unity that is still pretty good, but that fits into what we can do? And that's something that we really haven't talked about, but is definitely something that goes into it when you're thinking about planning for your campus. So let's go on. Try to. All right, I'll need to. Uh-oh, sorry. I want to delete it. Oh, well, we're not gonna worry about it. So any questions? Any questions or comments from anybody?
I did want to bring back up just the whole word of mouth thing, though, because I know that like in the past, at least I thought that the big thing when you're having an event is posting stuff on social media. You have flyers, you tell people your Bible study, you tell people at Impact, and you tell your close friends, and that's it. But I've learned that like word of mouth is really powerful. Like going up, like every day, having all your leaders, even that's an hour, 30 minutes, 5 minutes, just all throughout their day, they're telling every single person that they see about these things is very helpful. I think that because the big thing with word of mouth is when you tell one person, it spreads. Another way that word of mouth has also been powerful is we've done evangelism, and at the end of evangelism or evangelizing or sitting with people, we would let them know about the event. So like, oh, you can come to this as a also. So yeah, I just think just recently learning about word of mouth just blew my mind, because everywhere I was, whether that was on a bus or on my way out to the restroom, wherever I was, just telling people about stuff is really cool. So.
Yeah, and that works on every campus. No matter what campus you own, word of mouth is important. There's an organization that I joined as an undergrad. That it was one woman that would invite me every time she saw me, and she got on my nerves, like got on my last nerve, and I just went because she would not stop asking me, and I was just like, I'm just gonna go and just get it over with. And I ended up loving the organization, and eventually it wasn't Impact, but it eventually like becoming the president of the organization like 2 or 3 years later. And so, you know, I highly encourage students getting on people's nerves. And every time they see me, when you go come to Impact, when you go come, because even if they come just because you get on their nerves, you know, they still might end up leading later on. They might end up loving it. So I am 100% for getting on people's nerves. I'm for it. And this is recording, so I don't know how they go respond to this, but hey. Any questions pertaining to this or anything else? We do have about 7 more minutes, so feel free to ask me any question about Impact or me or about this training that we're doing. That's what I'm here for. So.
I have a question. Because you said you're the leader for all the Impact in Wisconsin. So how are you planning for this next semester to go?
Yeah, so I'm still in the process of trying to figure that out. It's going to entail a lot of meetings with the coaches of all the campuses. I'm over 5 campuses, possibly 6, because there's some conversation about launching a campus another campus here in Milwaukee. How that's gonna work in the middle of a pandemic, I have no idea, but Jesus can do anything. God can do anything. So, so never know. But right now I'm leading towards, because I oversee all 5 chapters, and none of them are that big. I think Madison is like the biggest one, but most of them have around about 10 students, maybe 15 students involved. So what I'm thinking about right now is the possibility of doing large groups virtually, but doing a statewide large group. And this semester, because I won't be traveling, so part of my job is to travel to all the different impact chapters across the state once a month. And that costs a lot of money. And I raised the money to do that. And it costs like for the year about $4,000 for me to do that. And that's with me staying at people's houses, not in hotels. So, so it's expensive. So what I'm thinking about doing is, since I can't travel to all the different campuses as much as I usually do, I'm hoping to be able to get those big name people and get mostly Black theologians to do large groups, like a statewide large group, where we can really dig into some apologetics around justice, broaden our understanding of the gospel, things like that. But then also think like digging in even more in small groups / discipleship. There'll probably be more like discipleship groups on the campuses where each campus can decide if they're going to do them in person or virtually, and really dig in on those, and then do like some kind of statewide thing where we can get some big name people that cost money. So that's not guaranteed, but that's really where we're kind of leaning towards, because it just seems like it'll be easier. But then also, I know a lot of student leaders have been overtaxed with this idea of virtual and having to do it virtual. And I want to be able to kind of lift that load off of them. Because if you're trying to figure out how to do class online, it's going to be really hard to focus in on doing work for impact, especially since our student leaders are required to do a lot of hours. You can ask the the Madison people, when they were asked to be on leadership, I'm sure they looked at those hours. It's like, what? So it's a lot of hours. The hours probably will be cut because of we don't have to be on campus, but we don't have to be on campus as much, but we're still working through that. We will have a session for everybody on virtual ministry. Will we be able to share a lot of things, and I'll be able to share more detail about what we are considering doing. So, yeah.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's more of like an open discussion question. It doesn't have to just pertain to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking, how can we as Impact members still implement our vision and our mission on campus, like quarantine style, since things are a little different now because of Corona? So how can we, reach to people while also maintaining 6 feet?
We only got 3 minutes, so I wanted to see if anybody else had thoughts first before I said something. No. It's a hard question, and I think that's something that Impact is trying to figure out, especially since like touch is very important. I mean, we have an Impact event and everybody hugging each other. Like, it's just weird not to have that. So what the question that I've been asking myself is like, what does it look like to hug someone without being able to touch them? And one of the things that I've been realizing is that probably will require more contact in other ways. So what does it look like for, like, one of the things that we were doing this past at the second half of spring semester is actually checking in with people via text or phone call. And that's something that we really didn't do that often, because we saw them every week, or we saw them walk into class, or we were in, you were in the same space, or you saw them in a library. But now we have to be more intentional about making regular connections with people. So pretending like you're walking around campus and you walk into the Black Cultural Center and you saw what's called, it requires more intentionality about connecting with people and finding spaces for people to connect. So that's really where it is just kind of figure out ways of like, okay, this is what Impact was. Now, what is this? How can we continue to do the same thing without being able to touch each other? And that's literally how I've been trying to figure out virtual ministry, is saying, this is what we did. How can I do this virtually? And then making adjustments, realizing that it's not going to be the same. So saying, you know, we're gonna have large group on Zoom. Okay, great. Well, worship is gonna be weird. So how do you do worship on Zoom? So it's like, you know, maybe we'll do something different for worship. Maybe it's like meditation or like a scripture, devotional, quiet time portion. I don't know. Like, so just trying to think through, like, at least it's helpful for me to kind of have this marker point and say, this is what we did in person. Now let's try to do this virtually. And then what adjustments do I need to make it more useful that doesn't work as well virtually? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, cool. I think that is our time. All right, y'all. I'll see you in the general session.